What it do, what it do, what it do, what it do. So first off, let me start with apologizing. Yesterday there wasn't no video. Why? I ain't have no clear explanation. You feel me? Right now I'm a little bit stuck. Like I'm feeling like also like I noticed that I'm feeling like very ashamed and very guilty of me not being normally I'm so productive. I haven't went basketballing in like a week. I haven't worked on like with coding for like a week. Haven't been to the gym in like a couple of days. And I really just don't feel like going and shit. But yeah, I'm just really stuck on that, right? Because I noticed that just doing those things just takes a lot of time from me in a way, not time but energy in a way that it's never working. Like it's just always like I just noticed that like I can do like even though I'm coding, which is like kind of productive and shit, there's always some I don't know, it feels like I'm always just not at rest. Always it feels like I always need to be somewhere else. Like my mind is just always very jumpy and that's just trauma, you feel me? It's what I've noticed in my life. So that's what I'm really working on now and I don't really like feel like doing a lot. Feel me? Even though I feel like very guilty and shit. Because I'll be like, but damn, how you're gonna be successful if you won't learn these skills or this or that. Like, yeah, bro. That's really what my mind is concerned about now. So yeah, even though well yesterday I didn't make a video, I was still like I had to show up today, you feel me? So yeah. So we just gonna start today. I just wanna talk about like how relationships, just like today's relationships, are very hard. Very hard. In a sense that today's relationships at home aren't are difficult and oftentimes are not kids are not being met with like the needs that they should have get right that they require. And that's why I say like trauma is trauma is everywhere within our society, and that's something like I will continue to talk about. But it's hard for people to realize because trauma is not something that the trauma that the Western world is facing is not really that apparent. It's not the trauma which like the veterans have that went to like Afghanistan and came back and were all like very like mentally like disturbed. It's not that kind of trauma. It's the trauma that starts early on at home, which is the emotional connection that you have with your parent, which is oftentimes not that healthy. What I've really noticed is the like how should I say it? Like the ethnical differences of how people raise their kids. And this is like a basic it's a little bit a stereotype thing, but what I've noticed with my own and like I can really talk about the like kind of ethnical differences. Why? Because I come from a home with ethnical differences. So my mom is white, my dad is black. So I really noticed that my mom was very like tolerating, which later on I learned stems out of her own trauma, which where she never learned to create her voice and be like, okay, this is enough. So she like basically tolerated my brothers and things like being like very like doing crazy things in the house and basically like kind of stepping over her or walking over. I don't know how you really was the word for it, but you know what I mean, right? Just tolerating things that she really shouldn't be tolerating. And even though my dad was like the complete opposite, like he really like didn't tolerate anything. What you notice is you will still, and even though it was very wrong, my dad still like the connection that I had with him was in a kind of sense like a little bit better. At least like the how would I say it, the emotional connection. And this is something very weird, because when it came to my mom, I could basically like talk more openly with my mom, but when it comes to like who you really like kind of like felt like a connection with was my dad. And what I've really noticed is how that just comes out of that early development where you just grow up with a parent that is not tolerating, and even though he expressed it in a lot of wrong ways, like through like violence, hitting, things like that, you still create like a connection in a way that you learn what's wrong and what's not. And of course, when it is too much to the extreme, right, where violence comes into play, then it's oftentimes also harmful. But that's what I really noticed with like ethnical differences, where even though like a lot of parents from like, I don't know how you would say it, like foreign parents, right? How they are like 9 out of 10 times are kind of like violent in the household. You still, what I always see is like the connection is like still like there or something. That's something like very weird that I've noticed. And with a lot of people that actually said like, even though their mom or dad hit them, they still feel like very connected to them, because that's where they actually got from like, okay, this is not tolerated and this is tolerated. And that's at the same time, it really gives you a backbone. Why? Because your parents have like a kind of sense, like, I wouldn't even call it the backbone, because I don't condone hitting your kids and being overly violent. That's something, in my opinion, that's wrong. But it still give you kind of something that in life where you build like some sense of self, because you learn that, okay, what you don't want, you don't tolerate that. And that's why it's also very harmful to let your kids just walk all over you, do whatever they want. And at the same time, it's also very harmful to hit your kids, like, you feel me? And that's where like healthy parenting comes into play, where you should at the same time be very like kind of dominant, but also be like not like violent, you feel me? And I can't really give you like the best advice on it. Why? Because I don't have children like my own children right now, even though I'm learning my own things with handling my little brother, right? He's like 4 and shit. But that's also something that I've noticed with him. As soon as I put him like, I just give him like some time out, and I just tell him to sit somewhere while I stay calm and don't like reject him on an emotional level. Because like that's something very important. You can always punish your kids, but the kids always should like kind of feel like that there's something wrong with the thing that they did, and not something wrong with them. Feel me? And that's just very, very important. But yeah, just that's like the blueprint of how a lot of things aren't really healthy, because a lot of parenting is not healthy. And even though there aren't really that much bad parents, that's something like, you can point your fingers at parents. Parents always will do everything that they can, like, even though it are very fucked up parents, like kind of some like maybe there are some maniacs, like some fucking crazy dudes who just wake up and just choose violence and be like, yeah, today I'm just gonna fuck up my kids, you feel me? But that's just a handful of people. The majority of parents really wakes up and tries to do the best that they can do. And sometimes all they can do is not much, but they still did everything that they could do. So yeah, but that's already where the blueprint is created, and this is very important to note down that that's like the most apparent trauma in our life, and also in my opinion, the most difficult sense, because why? If you're traumatized when you went to like a war zone and you came back and you were all disturbed, you know where your trauma stems from. You know, you can basically like point out, okay, I went through this. And that's where like those are like kind of singular events. You can say like, oh yeah, I walked into this ambush and I seen like 3 friends die. I seen this, I seen that, I seen that. But the thing is with like growing up and being traumatized through your parents, through the way that they raised you, you don't really have nothing to show for. So you will walk around life, your entire life, and wonder why am I doing the things that I've done? That was also the same with me, because my dad was, sometimes he was not really around like things as that, but for my mom, like she was always around. So for me, I was always like how can I be traumatized? My mom put food on the table, bought me Nikes, you feel me? Things like that. And I could have never really I could never remember the things that were happening. Even though a lot of violent things were happening, I didn't really knew it. And that's something that's very like hard when those things happen in early childhood, because even though your trauma might be like singular event trauma, you're oftentimes so young that eventually you will just like get numb to that. So you will just close yourself off from that feeling. And that's why I'm doing this with my hand like it was some crazy hand sign. But it's basically like this is the part of trauma, and you just like close that off from yourself. And by the age that you can like basically become a little bit aware of what you do, you've been like you've been hiding those things from your consciousness for like, I don't know how long. And then you will just be like, then what the fuck is really wrong with me? Because I can't even point out what happened to me. And that was how it was for me, bro. Like, I've really had to hear stories about what like basically like overcame me, and had to really like later on in life more memories came into play. But like during my most traumatized states, I couldn't tell you nothing about really what overcame me, because it was just so locked within me. Couldn't really remember things. Only until I started deleting like addictions in my life, that's when I realized like, okay, I'm really fighting trauma. I wasn't even really aware of like trauma, but I was kind of aware like, okay, damn, this overcame me, things like that. And all of a sudden I couldn't really handle being alone anymore. I couldn't just, to be honest, I never could be alone. But that's also something that trauma does with people, right? You become very, not like you become very uncomfortable with your own presence, which in my opinion, and how it came into play in my life, was even like a parent just not giving you the emotional connection that you need. And that can also be like sometimes like a punishment. Like a healthy punishment is also at the same time it's a healthy connection. And punishment is not hitting your kids, but just letting your kid know, okay, what you did now is wrong, and the behavior that you're displaying is wrong. And it's basically your task as a child as a parent to make your kid like calm down in a healthy sense through your kid seeing that you're calm. That's also like very important. I noticed that with my little brother. If I put him if I just give him like a little time out, and I always like sit next to him. And I also like don't like point out like his um I don't say like that it's something against him really. I just always point out like what he did. And that also might be wrong, right? Because I'm also still learning with that, but I do really feel that's better than just lashing out entirely and really making the kid feel like ashamed and afraid, because that's just really all the kid will really feel. It's just because young kids only thing that they really register is like your tone of voice, your whole like demeanor, just like your whole way of saying things, your body language. That's the only thing they really pick up on. You feel me? And that's also like something that's very like, I wouldn't even say kids, it's very like human nature. If you start an argument with you could basically say like the rationally the most truest thing in the world, but nobody will really listen. All they will pick up is that voice and be like and feel very threatened by it. So yeah, that's just really something that I really noticed within like how that unhealthy dynamic with your parents just like it doesn't really prepare you for the real world, in a sense that you won't really notice, you won't really learn how to handle a good relationship, especially intimate relationships with a girl. You wouldn't really like know how to do that because you have never felt that connection with your mom or your dad. So everything is just like very strange, and then you will just create a new cycle of basically reliving trauma, but now just with a different person. Feel me? So that's hard, and that's like very hard, but that's what we really need to realize and what we need to work upon. Because the thing is, with the moment when you start becoming traumatized and stop being the person that you were, which is all kids are like almost like sensitive, like they're very like vulnerable, but that's also the reason why we really learn. You feel me? So that's why I also believe like how that's the real key, in my opinion, to really growing. I don't even really think that like parents grow like aren't like later on in life they say like, yeah, it's harder for you to learn, right? Because only like young children learn very fast, things like that. But I don't really think that's true. Like, even though it's probably some science to it, but the main reason why I really think that we stop growing is because we put all these labels on ourselves, and everything that all the information that we will intake we will just judge it. We will be like, nah, this crazy, this is not, I can do this, I can't be that vulnerable, I won't give this a shot because it goes against my trauma labels or my trauma behavior, things like that. That's the real reason why I think that later on grow-ups don't really learn that fast anymore. But like, yeah. Yeah, I just always forget my shit. I'm just always like, start the camera, just start yapping about shit that I'm learning, shit that I'm like reading. But yeah, that doesn't just, it doesn't prepare you for the real world. Why? Because you basically trauma. I've noticed that with myself, like deep down, that's what I really notice is like deep down emotionally on like that. Even though rationally I'm like very smart and I'm like this and that, emotionally I always felt like I wasn't there. And that's what trauma will do for you. It will just basically, at the point where you stop being vulnerable and stop displaying like your true healthy sense, like your true like nature, that's where you will stop growing, and that's basically the state in where you will stay. And that's why traumatized people are also the people that lash out very quickly or be like overtly too nice, things like that. You feel me? And that's what I really noticed, that that's just what happens when you're like, when you grow up traumatized. So you basically stay that little child. So you're never really prepared for a healthy relationship. You're never really prepared to be like a good parent. I wouldn't even say like a good parent, because you are a good parent, but you never be really like prepared. Because in my opinion, if you do everything that you can do for your kid and everything that you're aware of that you can do, then you're a good parent. But I would say like you wouldn't be able to create like the perfect situation for your kid. I also, at the same time, I think that's something like fake, but you won't be able to create like the closest thing to being perfect for your child, which has actually not really anything to do with like money. Is more about the best emotional connection that you can have with your child, and psychological shit, and you feel me, and shit, all that good shit home. So yeah, that's just really, you won't be able to create it, and that will just be apparent in all your relationships. So the relationship with money won't be very mature. Why? Because emotionally you haven't really matured. So you will just be, in that sense, like a little child. You will see like, oh, I need this. Yeah, I need this. I need this. I need to buy this. I need to buy this. Trauma. You feel me? Same with a relationship with a girl. You won't be able to handle it. Why? Because you will be very clingy. You will be like, no, don't leave me. And your behavior will display that. A girl will feel that. A girl won't like that. You feel me? And that's just something hard, like, and also like with like maybe starting a business. You won't feel ready for that, because deep down you never really learn to be mature, because basically like you stopped growing since you was a child when it comes to like your emotions and self-regulation and like having that feeling of control over yourself. You basically stopped learning since you was like, I don't know how old, depends on the person, but for a lot of us that's not really that old. That's why life becomes hard for you. And before you know it, you are in the next situation where you will bring a child into this life, and unconsciously, of course, basically make your child like go down the same route that you've went, just probably a little bit better, right? That's at least something that you did. So in that sense, like, you will still of course do everything that you can, but you won't be really prepared for it. You won't really be able to do like the best, in the sense that deep down you have way more potential if you felt way more mature, things like that. And this also like very like, it all at the same time, it feels like very like finger point, like you're not that, but it's really not that. It's just really like some, basically like a hard truth about trauma, which is necessary for you to realize before you start growing. And that's hard, because a lot of people really need to realize that they are traumatized. But it will be easier once you realize that, because now you will realize, okay, okay, now I understand why I do what I do. Because a lot of people, bro, like, I can tell you all your addictions, bro, trauma. I can really vouch for that. There is no healthy person that just, because all addictions, otherwise there aren't good addictions. I would say there is no healthy person that has those bad addictions. Everything that's like, I don't know, that's detrimental, is that the right word for like something that breaks down your success or something, like, yeah, everything that's detrimental for your success and shit, it won't be because of natural reasons. It's trauma. It's either escaping pain or you've never really learned how to cope with it, which is at the core still probably escaping pain. That's why like money spenders, that like everybody spends money, but it's not right if you like get like your paycheck and tomorrow everything is gone. If it's not on like, if your paycheck is gone because of you spent everything on like the real things that you need to pay, like taxes, rent, things as that, okay, but oftentimes it's not. Oftentimes a lot of money goes to unnecessary things, like you just get that urging sense of, no, I need this, I need to buy something to gratify my own existence, basically, that sense of self. No, I need these shoes, I need that design, I need this, I need to show him and her who I am. And like, yeah, that's hard, right? Because at the end of the day, the reason why you're doing those things is kind of sad, but you really need to realize that if you want to grow. And that's really where it starts. It in my opinion, it always starts with the kind of addictions that you have, the things that you can point out, like, because the trauma is oftentimes not really that apparent anymore, but the things that you do to no longer feel the pain of the trauma are very apparent in your life. Those things come in form as addictions. So the trauma is still within your life. It's just no longer really that conscious anymore. But it's still in your life, and you really need to think about the things that you're doing and why you're doing them. And yeah, that's just really my like view of it, right? That's really my view of it, how I think about it, and how I've noticed it or within my life. And this is something like, I'm not like a doctor, but at the same time, you don't need to be the doc. You don't need to really be a doctor anymore these days to know about, like, of course, when it comes to like curing some things, but a doctor will never really treat trauma. In my opinion, trauma can only be treated by the people who've actually been traumatized. And a lot of people will just be like those people, like they just read some books, never really actually experienced something. They just see like trauma as like, oh yeah, people are experiencing those things. This might be a very interesting like adventure of me. So I wanna do these things, right? And that's why a lot of people aren't really able to help traumatized people. Why? Because I do think a lot of people aren't really aware of trauma. Never really aren't aware of how it displays within their own life and how it displays into other people's life. And sometimes it's also just people aren't like, when didn't go through the things to be able to teach you. Bro, I can't teach no combat veteran about how to heal from like combat veteran trauma, that type of trauma. Of course, like trauma is in a kind of sense still like something global, like the reason why you created defense mechanisms, that will probably still be the same, but I can't really like talk like, okay, you need to do this and that, you need to, I don't know. So that's why I also say, like, nowadays the doctor is not really like, the doctor was never a guarantee, and especially not during those days when it comes to like mental things, the things that you can't see. Of course, like the things that you can see, I would still recommend go to the doctor, of course. So I'm saying, like, if you got like some tumor or something like that, of course you need to go to the doctor. But when it's like mental, because I also really believe like society is really worried about, oh no, you can't see it, so it's not really apparent, it's not really there. You're just, oh yeah, just drink some tea. Nowadays people are like really fighting trauma or really depressed, and people be like, Nah, this really is something fake. Like, drink some tea or take these pills. Feel me? Things like that. So, yeah, so that was just really my video. I still notice that I get like very like, I don't know, frustrated because my videos aren't like perfect or something like that, or I don't have the feeling that they are good enough, and I'm talking just crazy things like that. But yeah, that's just, I think it's part of the program. So yeah, that was really my video. If you like this video, you might want to like it. You might want to subscribe. I'll drop down my socials in my description. If you want me helping you with your trauma, just feel free to DM me on one of those socials. Or you can also send me like a, I don't know, maybe, yeah, you can also like drop down a comment of if you are like, if you have some questions for me, things like that, you feel me? But yeah, I will leave down my social in my bio, in my description. If you want me helping you with your trauma and helping you as far as I can help you, and also like other things in the space of self-improvement, that could be your business, things like that. Of course, if you're like some fucking 7 million agency owner, don't ask me about, I can't help you with that. But if you're just like just starting, you got some questions and you think I'm able to help you, just ask them. We can talk about that. And the first 10 people that I will do will be free. So yeah, feel free to hit me up on the socials. So, you know, it's really my video. I don't know, that shit just sounded cringe or something like that, what I've just said and shit. But yeah. Just, yeah, if you want to work with me, just yeah, just click on the socials and shit, man. I don't even know. I just get that like fucking like that is all crazy in my head and shit. Yo.